Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're digging into corporate sustainability. And it all really starts with a huge fundamental question about what a business is even for.
For the longest time, the answer was a pretty simple yes. But what if that's the wrong question entirely? There's a new way of thinking that's challenging that very core idea, and it's forcing us to ask, what does a company truly owe the world that it operates in?
And this isn't about, just making a few small tweaks here and there. Nope. This is a profound shift in perspective. We're talking about moving from a narrow, purely economic focus to a much broader, more humanistic view of a company's role in society. This really gets to the heart of the change. I mean, look at the old model. Success was measured by one thing and one thing only: profit. But that's giving way to something new, a model that demands an ethical commitment and judges a company not just on its wealth, but on its real impact on people and the planet.
See, the traditional way of doing business was built on what, looking back, seems like a dangerous fantasy. It was this idea that the natural resources we use to fuel production were just endless. And as we know all too well now, that assumption has led us straight into a global crisis.
Okay, so let's dive into this a little deeper, because the real-world consequences of a system that's only driven by profit, they're absolutely impossible to ignore now. You could say the bill for decades of environmental neglect is finally coming due.
This whole situation has actually given rise to an entire field of study, environmental economics. And its main goal is to figure out how can we meet our economic needs without completely bankrupting our planet. It's all about trying to reconcile the hard realities of industry with the very finite reality of our environment.
And this isn't some kind of exaggeration for effect. The raw materials that are the literal bedrock of our global economy. We're talking everything from clean water to essential minerals. They're being used up at a rate that just isn't sustainable. The bottom line is, without those resources, economic development just stops.
So the crucial point here, the big takeaway, is that we've hit a wall. The way we've always done things, treating nature like it's just some external thing to be used up, it simply can't continue if we want to have a livable future.
And the consequences are already here. We see it all around us, in our changing climate, the heartbreaking loss of animal and plant species, and the critical depletion of fresh water. These are not abstract problems for some far-off future. They are the direct results of how we produce and consume things right now.
But it's not all doom and gloom. In response to this crisis, a whole new set of tools has been developed. Think of them as frameworks designed specifically to help businesses navigate this new reality and actually become part of the solution, not just the problem.
And maybe the most famous of these tools is something called the triple bottom line. What it does is fundamentally redefine what business success even looks like. We're moving beyond a single financial bottom line to three interconnected ones.
Now, what's really cool is how this visualizes that balance. See, profit is still there, of course it is, but it's no longer the only goal. It shares equal importance with people, that's the social impact on employees and communities, and planet, which is the environmental impact of everything a company does. This whole philosophy is put into practice through something you've probably heard of: corporate social responsibility, or CSR. It's that moment when a company stops acting like it's in a vacuum and starts taking real, tangible responsibility for its impact on the world.
So you might be wondering, how does this actually work? I mean, if you've got new rules for success, you're going to need a new way to keep score, right? How do we really know which companies are actually walking the talk?
Well, this is where sustainability and social balance reports come in. Just think of them as a corporate report card. For really the first time, companies are being asked to publicly and transparently tell everyone how they're doing on everything from carbon emissions to their labor practices.
And this has created a whole new ecosystem of accountability. You've got organizations like the Global Reporting Initiative, or GRI, that sets the global standards for this kind of reporting. You have investment indexes like the ISE that guide money towards sustainable companies. And you have powerful movements like fair trade, making sure ethical standards are followed all the way down the supply chain.
And these frameworks, they aren't just theory. They drive a huge range of very practical, real-world actions. We're talking about companies making the switch to renewable energy, putting in systems to recycle water, ensuring fair wages, creating safe places to work, and even designing products with recyclable materials.
I think this definition from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development just nails it. It really captures the spirit of this shift.
This isn't some temporary campaign, it's not a marketing gimmick, it's a permanent, ethical commitment that's woven into the very fabric of how a business operates.
So, what does all this actually mean for the future of business? Where is this all headed?
The single biggest shift is happening in the boardroom, in the mindset. What used to be dismissed as just an unwanted cost, a burden on the bottom line, is now more and more being understood as a crucial investment in a company's long-term survival and success. In fact, the leading companies are discovering that strong performance on environmental and social issues is actually a new competitive advantage. Customers, partners, and the best talent, they're all increasingly drawn to businesses that are part of the solution. And that creates a powerful new source of value.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought, one that turns the camera away from the corporations and back onto all of us, as consumers, as investors, as employees. The choices we make every single day help decide which version of business wins out. The power to shape a more responsible future, it's really in our hands.